Hi everyone. Today we are going to be reviewing what we know about Japanese internment camps, which you guys should have learned about in history. And we're going to be taking a look at some paired texts. So anytime that we have more than one text, in this case it's a video, but it could be a short story, a poem, nonfiction article. Anytime we have two or more, we call those paired texts. And you guys will see that on your SOL for sure. So, what are our goals today? We're going to review what we know about Japanese internment camps that we learned about in history. We are going to understand how the way information is presented affects the message. And we're going to compare and contrast different texts. So, when we say we want to understand how the way information is presented affects the message, we know that if the author or the video maker chooses a different music, chooses different words to describe what they're showing, chooses different pictures, that the end result is going to be different based on what they choose to include. So, what do we already know about Japanese internment camps? And like I said, you guys should have learned about this in history. So, go ahead and go to the Padlet and just type anything that you know about Japanese internment camps. And if you don't remember, that's okay. You can just put, I don't know. I see some of you guys are remembering some good things. Pearl Harbor, World War II. Yes, a lot of times we compare them to the concentration camps in Europe during the Holocaust. So, what caused the United States to get involved in World War II? And a couple of you guys said this on the Padlet. Right. So, Pearl Harbor was the event that caused the United States to get involved in World War II. So, when the Japanese forces attacked US ships in Pearl Harbor, which is in Hawaii, the US decided that they were going to get involved in the war and they were going to join the war. So the president at the time, FDR, signed Executive Order 9066, right? So you guys remember the three branches of government from civics. The executive branch is who? Right, the president. So this order is from the president saying anyone of Japanese ancestry has to go into a relocation center or a camp. So that means even if you were born here, even if your parents were born here, if your grandparents or somebody in your ancestry was born in Japan, you had to go into these camps. Even if you don't speak Japanese, even if you've never been to Japan, right? Even if you were American, had never shown any signs of disloyalty or anything like that, you had to go in the camp if you were Japanese. So, what do you guys know about those camps? What do we know? Are they good? Were they bad? What were they like? Yeah, so a lot of you guys are talking about the concentration camps in Europe, right, during the Holocaust, where they killed millions of Jewish people. It was not on that scale, certainly. They did not kill people on a mass scale like in Europe, but the camps were not good. As you guys can see in this picture here, they were guarded by the military with these big, scary guns. You guys can see on the end of this man's rifle here, his gun, there's a blade. This is called a bayoneted rifle. One of our videos is going to talk about that specifically. And you guys can see that this is kind of a nasty desert. This was probably in an old converted racetrack or some other kind of desert. And then here we have just kind of yucky looking shacks, and that's where they had to live. So conditions were not good. We're going to learn more about them in a few minutes with our videos. But the reason why maybe you don't know a lot about these camps is because this is a really shameful part of history, right? I'm sure you couldn't imagine us rounding up everyone of one race, whether they were born here or not, and shoving them into a camp because we were afraid, right? So obviously not a good part of history, something that we're really ashamed of as a country. So we're going to take a look at three different points of view. So the first video is from present day. So this was created by a student like you guys a few years ago. So we're going to learn a lot of facts about these camps from this video. The second video is from the US government. So this video was released as a piece of propaganda. So back in the 40s, not everybody had a TV in their house. So one way that people got news and information, in addition to reading the newspaper, was when you went to the movies, right? You guys can see here on this title slide, it's from the Bureau of Motion Pictures. So when you went to the movies, before the movie, instead of seeing the previews and stuff that you guys would see today, you would see a newsreel a lot of times. So in this case, the government was releasing this video to tell everybody in the country what was going on in these camps. So if we lived in Southern California, we might know some people who had to go to the camps, and we might know some people who were affected by this and what these camps might be like. But if we were here in Virginia, we would have no idea what was going on. So the government decided to release this video to show what these camps were like and what they were doing, with these Japanese people. So I'm sure you guys can imagine, right, that they're not necessarily going to show all the facts. They don't want it to look like a bad place. And then the third video is George Takei. He is an actor. He's still alive. He's best known for his role in Star Trek. He is actually really active on social media now. He's a big proponent of human rights. So this video is an interview with him because he was in one of these camps when he was little. He was living in Southern California at the time, and he was forced into one of the camps. I think he was 4 years old, and you guys will get to hear what he has to say. But so you may already be able to tell from these different descriptions of the videos here that the way that the people are presenting the information is not necessarily going to be the same. Even though these are all about the same topic, the message of the video and the feelings that we get from the video are going to be different based on who is presenting the information. So when we watch these videos, we want to think about how some of them, right, we talked about fact and opinion many times throughout the year and in the years past. If a video is unbiased, it is full of facts. There are no feelings. You guys might see dates, you might see statistics, numbers. It's unbiased. There's no feelings. They're just the facts. It's objective, right? If it's biased, it is subject to opinion or subjective. So there's opinions, there's feelings. It's on one side of the issue. It's from one point of view. So I'm sure you guys will realize that some of these videos, at least 2 of them, are going to be biased, right? A lot of them have feelings behind them. So what should I pay attention to when I watch these videos? So you need to be paying attention to the pictures and the videos that are included. You need to pay attention to the words. Word choice is really important in any text, the words that they use to describe what's going on, the music that they choose to play, and the information that is shared or not shared, right? Some of the videos might leave some information out. And then we want to think about how are they similar or different, and the overall effect that each video has, the overall feeling that we get from watching each video. So after we would watch these videos, and I might show them either as a whole group and stop at the end to kind of recap what happened, what did we see, what did we notice, or I could do it in a small group where I might stop the video throughout and kind of check in with the kids. Okay, what did we see? What did we notice? What just happened? That might be a group that, needs a little bit more support. Or I could say to an advanced group, hey, watch these videos on your own. Let me know if you have questions, and kind of recap at the end. So after we would watch the videos, this would be the activity that I would have them do. So this is kind of the more scaffolded version. So I would ask, was this video biased or unbiased? So this is a link here back to the page where we talked about what is biased, what is unbiased, and then how do you know? So I would ask the kid to explain, how do we know it was biased? How do we know it was unbiased? Facts that this student learned from the video. And again, this would be an indication, okay, are we on track with fact and opinion? Are we able to differentiate between fact and opinion? And then things I noticed about how the author showed the information. So what pictures were included, what information, and then the overall tone or feeling of the video. This might be a little bit less scaffolded. What I might give to an advanced student, I might ask the student to give a written response or maybe a Flipgrid response, culminating everything, kind of synthesizing all of that together. So how does the way the author presents information in video 1 affect the overall message and tone of the video? And then include specific details about the facts you learned, different parts of the video, and the music. So I included a sample response here from a student. Then for comparing and contrasting the different videos, this is a graphic that they would often see on the SOLs, very similar to a TEI question. And this asks them to kind of drag and drop the different elements that were included in the video, biased, unbiased, different points of view. And then all this is word choice. So these are specific words and phrases that were used in the video that contribute to the tone of each video. And then, so these would be extension activities. We have a poem called Executive Order, in response to Executive Order 9066. And this is from the point of view of a little girl who's forced to go into a camp. And she's saying goodbye to her best friend who now thinks that she's a traitor. So that one's really powerful. Then there's a short story called Camp Harmony, also about a girl who is in the camp. And then we usually have them create an original piece, kind of synthesizing all the information that they've learned about the camps and the experiences and the feelings and how, you know, the government responds to what happened, using all 5 of those paired texts. So this is a lesson breakdown. So my learning targets were, what will students know and be able to do as a result of this lesson? So this is SOL 7.3. The student will understand the elements of media literacy. So down to the letters. C, describe how word choice and visual images convey a viewpoint. So that's where, you know, we would look through the different explanation. You know, as I watch the videos with the kids, we kind of point out different words that we noticed, different images that we noticed, different videos that were included, and comparing contrasting the techniques in auditory, visual, and written media messages. Now, obviously, this specific lesson is audio and visual. The written media messages are not as relevant in this lesson. Formative assessment criteria of success. How will you know if your students, how will you and your students know if they've successfully met the outcomes? What specific criteria will be met in successful product and process? And what does success on this lesson's outcomes look like? So this was the kind of more scaffolded student response. So what I'm looking for success, can the student correctly identify bias, right? So if the student were to watch that US government video and say this is unbiased, you know, I would need to re-examine that and reteach that. Can the student explain what contributes to bias? So in this case, this video is unbiased. It's mostly facts, right? Dates and numbers, so they know that unbiased means facts, and they can connect that. Facts they learned from this video, so a student can identify facts and distinguish them from opinions. So especially if I know a student is already struggling with distinguishing between fact and opinion, maybe from an earlier activity or assessment, then I would use this kind of to check in, how are we doing with fact and opinion? And then here, student can connect word choice and imagery that contribute to tone. So can we identify the tone or the feeling, and how all of this comes together to create a feeling? So teaching strategies and interventions. So in the I do portion, I'm activating prior knowledge with that Padlet and kind of having a discussion with students. What do we remember? What happened? It's a lot easier to see when there are real students. I'm reviewing key vocabulary, the bias, unbiased, facts, and opinions. And then we're using cross-curricular connection because this is a history skill. When I teach this lesson in 8th grade, it's been a while since students learned about that. But if I were to teach this lesson in 7th grade, I would try to do it either right after they learned about the internment camps in history, or maybe at the same time to kind of boost that. And maybe the paired text activity could be a cross-curricular activity with history, and they could do, some primary source work with that. You know, it would depend on what the situation was. So for we do, that would be the videos, and I would be doing a think aloud and modeling as we watch the videos. Obviously, time didn't allow for me to do that within this video, but I ask, okay, what are they doing? What kind of the music is that? What are they showing right now? What did they say about the way that the people felt when they went to fill out their paperwork and sell all their houses and farms? Think aloud and modeling what I'm thinking as I'm watching that. And then the you do, on the more scaffolded version of it, I'm kind of scaffolding those connections. Okay, is it biased or unbiased? How do you know? What happened? What did you see? How did that contribute to the feeling? So kind of scaffolding those connections to get them to make that connection between the way information is presented and how it affects the overall message. So access for all and accommodations, of course, we've got special programs, we've got 504, IEP, ESOL. So I really like using videos as much as I can because they allow students to pause, rewind, and use captions. You can also translate to Spanish a lot of times in the captions. And especially if somebody didn't, an ESOL student or a special ed student didn't hear it, didn't catch it the first time, they need more time, they can pause it, they can rewind it, they can go at their own pace and do things at their own pace. The more scaffolded version of the activity is broken into small, manageable chunks. So anytime I do a written response, I like to have different boxes where they can see each thing that I need to do. Okay, I'm partway done with this. I'm done with this section. I'm stuck on the grain section, Miss Jinx. So I like to, make sure they can see each different piece instead of just a big blob of text. Where that might be more appropriate for an advanced student to kind of synthesize everything, and they don't need to be scaffolded as much. But those small manageable chunks are definitely helpful for my special ed students. And then, of course, based on student needs, I would show the video either in a large group, and this is what I would do in a brick and mortar classroom. I would typically show a video in a large group and then recap after each video, using verbal response. What did you see? What did you notice? I could show a video in a small group of students that maybe need a little bit more support and kind of pause throughout the video, asking, okay, what about that part? What did you just see? What did we notice about that? Or with an advanced student, I might allow the student to watch independently and do those responses on their own. So these are the resources that I used, and I will include the links in the comments of the YouTube video. So we have these 3 videos, and then these are the 2 resources for the extension activities. This is the short story Camp Harmony, and then this is the poem in response to Executive Order 9066. Okay, please let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.